Welcome to the Chewn podcast, where real topics are discussed by fake individuals with fake opinions. Even if it's the host or the guest, don't take them seriously. And if you do get offended, guess what? Shit happens. Leave it below in the comment section. Let's roll. Hey, what's going on, nation? We back again with our mental and spiritual revitalization from Baba Ifa Solo is with us today, and we are not playing any games. We are going to try and tap in with you, try to get you good information from somebody who we find as a solid source, as a solid guidance, especially for me in my life, and me contacting and meeting with this man. And it's been excellent ever since I have. He enlightened me and definitely probably woke me up mentally and spiritually when I first met him. So we're hoping to do the same thing for you. How you doing, Baba Ifa Solo? How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, having me on again. I always look forward to these conversations. It doesn't feel like work or a chore, so.
Okay. Never. I'm glad. We was already off camera. We was talking about work. He thought he was a wonderful idea. 30 pounds on his back on like a 30-mile hike or something like that. but we're not doing that no more. We're not doing that no more. Today we're gonna be trying to address trauma in the Black community, different forms of it. And so what I would like to start off with is something that often commonly comes up with me in discussion. I get it a lot. I've even been requested to come to Europe. And I know when a lot of my brothers and sisters ask me about going, are you going to go to Italy? You going to go see the Eiffel Tower? I always tell them I'm not going to Europe until I go to Africa first. I'm not going to go to Europe where, a group of people, I'm not saying all white people are bad. I don't take it the wrong way, but I'm not going to visit a place in which created slavery and imported my people before I go home to what's my home and my descendants. But a lot of times when I say this to them, they're like, why you want to go there? It's dirty. It's not well civilized. It ain't nothing but a jungle. Why would you want to go somewhere where you're going to be depressed? Why is it that our people have this type of norm perception when it comes to Africa versus going to England, where I know the Eiffel Tower dirty as shit around it? Why do they have this type of trauma that goes and they don't want to go back home?
I think a lot of it is just the images that they've seen in propaganda or movies. What we hear in the news, it is. I've been to Africa, and I think one of the things is like if you're trying to control the people, you got to control the images that are put out. So a lot of our people, they see the images that are put out by, like this system of Africa struggling. It's real interesting, just given what we're going through now. I heard the joke that United States is a third world nation on Gucci. And so I think it's one of the things wherein, you talk about all the corruption that's happening here in the United States. But to your point, I think it is a strategic, attempt to literally program our minds against Africa. Anything, it has been done for the last at least 5 centuries. And so I had a mentor who's now an ancestor. Her name is Dr. Patricia Newton. And, I have to give her praise and honor because, this is not to be messy, but I think, so there's a post-traumatic slavery disorder that is really been put out by Jordy Grew. And right. My mentor, Dr. Newton, came up with the idea of post-traumatic slavery syndrome. And then I'm going to get into Kevin Washington's work in a minute. But Dr. Newton, I asked her, I said, how do we really deal with the trauma we face? And she said, you got to change the images that are put out of us. So you have to rewire the brain. So people that say, oh, Africa is this, and Trump, his first term he got in the office, before he got in the office, he said Africa, Nigeria was a shithole nation. And so I knew Nigerians over here that would say that. And so I think it's one of the things wherein it's always the white man's ice is colder. Like you say, folks flock to Europe. Right. I have never been to Europe. I've never been. I want to go to Spain. But everybody tells me that Paris might be beautiful, but it stinks. It's
dirty. Mm-hmm.
Everybody talks about Rome and the Colosseum. Somebody said it actually looks like a ghetto. So it was just it is all in the packaging. It's literally all in the packaging. So with Europeans, the what do they call in Rome, like the Coliseum, those land, like it's like anywhere else. If that was in the black community, that would be considered like dilapidated
landmarks. Right.
Like, well, they're landmarks. And so it's perception, you controlling. It's one of the things, if you in power, to control the narrative. And that's what they have done very well. They have controlled the narrative for the past 500 years. And so we buy into it. They say Africa is a shithole continent. Then we start believing it. The Tarzan movies, like I had family members, they used to love Tarzan. I never liked Tarzan because to me it was just, even as a child, I was like, this don't make sense. How in the world is this white man like leading all these black people? And it never made any sense to me at all. And so like those shows, King Kong.
Yeah.
Like King Kong, again, is very, racist. The whole trope. I don't know if you remember when LeBron James and who was the model? Giselle Bündchen, Tom Brady's ex-wife. They did a famous I remember they had them on the cover. Yeah, and so,
like King Kong and shit.
And he looked like King. And black people with sense.
But he did it. He did it.
He did. And I'm gonna say this. I love LeBron James. I do. But I was like, I think it's one of the things when you don't know the psychological ramification of how images are propagated. And then so it was just like a 21st century King Kong. This big, tall black man, and then the blonde supermodel, and she looking like she is, I don't know, look like she's like afraid. And so those images, I'm just using those as an example. Those images, and then you see East Africa, all they talk about is starvation. So you think, and it's real interesting. It's really interesting.
Well, Doc, let me ask you this.
Go ahead, Dan.
When we talk about the images, because I'm curious how we get so messed up if we talk about images, because you look at the plagues and things like that, those originated in Europe. A real evil, cannibalistic type of people. When you look at Rome and the things that they built in Rome, and then they traveled to Paris and these other places, they had to travel further east to gain this knowledge, then go back and take it to their people. Which if they had to travel deeper east in Africa, just naturally, if folks so woke and they know everything and if life originated in Africa, then they had to travel to Africa to get the information. Then it's right there in front of us. Why we ain't seeing it? That we should be looking at as great as opposed to these people, because all greatness that they've got up until now, they've searched in the other cultures and destroyed and found the best of those cultures and brought them to come work amongst themselves and took credit for what they've done. So what is it, because you way smarter than me and way more educated, what is it? I'm just being real. What is it that's put this veil over the majority of the people's eyes that we not just looking at the truth for what it is?
I think I'm going to say this. I think conversations like this are real important.
Right.
I don't fake the funk. I don't know all the answers. I can tell you just from a psychological and neurological. One of the things I just think about when you were talking is the fact that I remember I asked Dr. Newton one time. I said,
yes, sir.
Because in my class I teach about mirror neurons. So mirror neurons exist in our brains, and they allow us to, like, if you see me going through something that is horrendous, even if you can't do anything about it, like, you can sympathize and even empathize with me. Like, dang, like, you really, it ain't like you just say, oh, dang, that's a lot what that brother go. You, like, really feel it. And even if you can't do anything. So I remember I asked Doc one time, I said, so I asked her a question similar to that. She was like, so you know about mirror neurons. Mirror neurons allow you to be altruistic. Okay. So she said, in white people, most of their mirror neurons, if they see a white person going through something, even if they can't do anything, like, you see stuff that happens. What was that thing that happened in France a few years ago? So everybody on their Facebook page had the French flag up.
Right.
I drive around Atlanta. I see the Ukrainian flag up because they don't leave Ukraine. So they're mirror neurons. I tell black people, I was like, no, white folks are doing what they supposed to do. Their mirror neurons are working where they can sympathize with other white people.
Right.
And Dr. Newton said that 50% of black people, approximation, that only 50% of black people in the United States, she can only speak from that vantage point, that our mirror neurons were working right.
Only
That
half of it.
if we see other black people going through stuff, we can be like, oh my God, that's us. Well, another 50%, they like, that ain't me. And that scared me. You see what I'm saying? And so it's this constant. Like I'm listening to this one book now. I'm listening to it on Audibles called My Grandmother's Hands by Resma. I think his last name is pronounced Remican. And he says something really deep. He says, stop calling it. So he's talking about the trauma that take place in three groups of people: black people, cops, and white people. So he's dealing exclusively with those three groups. And he says, stop calling it white supremacy. It's white body supremacy. He says it exists in our bodies. That's the first time it made sense to me just from a neurological basis, because he was like, you're not going to change this system with strategies. You have to change it with culture. And that is true. We have to introduce a whole, because the culture we exist in over here, it's not conducive to who we are as African people. It is not. And so, like, the older I get, and I remember all my elders from Asa Hilliard to Francis Cress Wells, and they, especially Asa and Amos Wilson, they always used to talk about, you got to change the culture, you know. And so it's that work is really important, because when he conceptualized it, Resma, he says it exists in our bodies. So you got to literally, like we were talking about how I did a 10-mile hike with 30 pounds.
Right.
I know what I'm doing when I do that. It's excessive. I'm trying to get that trauma out of my body, and I'm doing my hands like this on purpose, because when we deal with people who work with trauma, who are dealing with trauma, like if they're going through something, we have them do this. And so it's very much the thing. I think we've gotten away. I think I was telling my goddaughter this. I remember I was raised in a Baptist church, not one of them bougie churches, but where they used to go down to the pulpit and pray.
Right.
Moan. And even as a child, I was like, I knew how healing that was. I knew how healing that was for them to do that group singing. And this brother who is a licensed social worker, that's what he says that will heal our bodies. And so we have gotten away from our culture of who we are as a people. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say things like this are important, because that's where the healing takes place. And I think the more we keep buying in, I mean, we ain't gonna have to buy in, because now we got somebody in here saying we don't want you. So
right. You got a choice.
I'm gonna say this, and maybe I shouldn't. So I live in Decatur, and one of the things, I'm not one of those people, because I had a homeboy. He said maybe they need to reinstitute segregation for us to start acting right again, because then we be forced to live around each other. I said, don't say that. Don't say that.
Solid point, though.
What?
That's a solid point.
I will say this. Something strange in a good way is happening among black people, at least in Atlanta, because I drive through my area of Decatur. I see black folks picking up trash off the highway. Like, if the trash people, like his brothers walking down, I stay off this South Harrison. His brothers, they picking up. And so I was like, okay, the pride is coming back, because I guess we done figured out we all we got.
Right. So let me ask you this, because you said something about body, which is interesting to me, which led me to another point I wanted to address. And to me, I guess I can explain it like a spidey sense. So when I'm driving, and a lot of people say you don't have nothing to worry about, the police, if they behind you or if they around you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you feel like you got something to worry about, you must be doing something wrong. And that shit's not true. I could be driving. If a cop car get behind me, I automatically feel this unease, this uncomfortable, like, why is this motherfucker behind me? Like, it's just automatic, an unease feeling. I'm already on guard. Man. And I know I ain't done shit. I'm not speeding. You know, I might be 5 over, but I might be rated the speed limit. I know I ain't commit no crimes. I don't have no warrants. I ain't had no tickets. What is up with that shit?
You know, on a cellular level, like that, when you talk about that trauma, we call that, like, it's a new term that's been developed in the past decade called epigenetics.
Okay.
Explain that a little bit.
So epigenetics is the whole thing. It's basically ancestral cellular memory. That's my word for it. Ancestral cellular memory. Your ancestors live in your body. So how they came up with epigenetics,
it's interesting you say that. God, and I'm sorry to
it's
interrupt you. Is that similar to what Bobby Hemmett used to talk about back in the day, talking about your ancestors
that live in your body?
Right. Is that similar?
I didn't know. I knew of Bobby Hemmett, but I didn't know he said that. But yeah, it is literally true. So they did studies, how they came up with epigenetics. They did studies with people of the Jewish faith. And it was really eerie because the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of Holocaust survivors were having dreams of them being in concentration camps. Damn. These are little children. These are the descendants of the survivors. Listen to what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
Having dreams that they in concentration camps. And so people were like, well, maybe the parents were telling them about it. On some of them, yes, but some of the children, no. And so it's a part in our brain called the red nucleus, which literally stores genetic memories of our ancestors. So it looks like an onion, like if you peel it back, layer upon layer of ancestral memory. So I'm saying that because even me, I saw some blue lights. I was at a restaurant last night off of Virginia Highlands. The blue light, I'm in the restaurant. The blue lights going off. Me and my homeboys, we like, what in the world? We had to remember, we in a restaurant. They ain't coming after us. But it's the whole notion about, the slave catcher, the ancestral memories.
Yes.
Then even today, because one of the things I do push back on about so-called post-traumatic slavery disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder syndrome is post-traumatic post-traumatic slave syndrome, post-traumatic slavery disorder. Kevin Washington, the former president of the Association of Black Psychologists, he said it's not post, it's not in the past, it's still happening.
Right.
So he calls it persistent racial stress disorder. The attack has never stopped. So we see those blue lights because even on an ancestral memory, it's kicking in. But then even now, on a present memory, it kicks in. And you just like, I ain't did nothing. Those blue lights come on and you immediately, and now they have the watches because I got one that can detect your stress level. So when the blue lights come on, I just switch to see how stressed out I am. And I'm like, it's way up there. So you talk about issues around blood pressure, all that stuff. That is what, because people be eating right and exercising and all that, and still have high blood pressure. They're trying to figure out what in the world is going on. It could be just living, we live, and today it is a very hostile society for black people.
Yeah. Facts. Right. Facts, and I know it was sad to me. Dan, if you're gonna jump in, that's fine. I got something I want to put out there. It was sad to me. My wife happened to had to pull over off to the side of the road to check something. She thought something was wrong with the car. So of course she called me and she thought she might have to call the police because where she was on the highway at that time. My son at that time was like, no, don't call the cops. Even though we're talking about criminal violence, he like, don't call the cops. And to me, that's ass backwards, right? You're like as a kid growing up, I remember the police used to come to the school and the DARE programs, and if you see a cop, you can stop them if you need help. Some kids today don't want to involve cops because they feel like they're not going to be helpful. Even trying to involve a cop at that point in time, you feel like that motherfucker might attack me while I'm trying to call to be help being attacked. And where is the line where, because I read a book called We Shoot Back, where is the line come where it's almost as a culture and a population where to the point cops that are doing what they're doing, the community starts shooting back at a certain point. That's what my theory is, that at some point in time there's going to be a situation, if so much pressure is built up, is there a point, and what happens at that point when the community starts responding like, we just going to start shooting back?
Yeah, it's one of the things, like I say, that stuff resides in black people's bodies, it resides in cops' bodies. And so it's a volatile, it's like a deadly stew. When they shoot back, I mean, we saw what happened in the 60s. That happened, with the Black Panther Party. Like, literally, that type of organization. I think one of the things is, and I know one of my elders, Dr. Umoja, who wrote We Will Shoot Back. I remember one time he spoke to my class, and he said something, it was really simple, but it was really profound. So, because, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very practical. I think black people need guns, but I don't like guns. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, he was killed. He was shot in the head right here. So I'm not a fan. So I got that ancestral memory that I had to literally work on. And so I'm real practical because I tell people we need guns, but I don't like them. And so I remember, and some of us, and rightfully so, you ex-military, I'm just on the real, I appreciate brothers and sisters who ex-military who got some kind of race consciousness, because I was like, we need that. I am no fool. And so Dr. Umoja, because black folk be like, I'm going to get my guns if the cops come through. And he was just he said, everybody, individual household can have guns. But if you don't do political education in that community, then everybody in that community just got a gun. They just going to defend their household. But the minute you start doing political education, then you got an army.
Cohesiveness, right? Gotcha.
And so I was like, in other words, the cops can come through. Everybody got their individual guns and popping off. But if you got political education, where a community says we got these guns to defend our community, the cops come in. They going up against literally a very powerful army.
Right.
That's what's happening. Because, the concern could be one where everybody got their guns, but everybody just watch it. And so it's bam. Because the cops organize.
Right.
Yes.
Super organized.
Me and Dan was talking about that on the podcast. Right. They organize.
You ex-military, when you organize and got weapons, you come through a disorganized. But if the cops meet an organized force, then the negotiation can happen, because everybody okay, we could kill each other, but let's it. And I think that's it. I think that's what needs to happen. I think we really need, as a community, these dialogues about how are we going to defend the community in a way that is very strategic, wherein they know not to mess with us.
Well, let me ask this, Doc, and see, the conversation that we're having, and we need it. Yeah, we need it strongly. We need it bad. But what we'll do is we'll turn that energy and that fight against our brother, against my look just like us. We won't dare touch the police. We won't dare touch a white man. We won't touch nothing but a white woman. That's the only thing that we'll do. So I don't get it. I don't get it, Doc.
Because that's what we've been programmed to desire. That's the real talk.
Man, I don't even find them to be attractive, man. I don't even find white women to be that attractive, my brother. So maybe it's something in me.
Right, no.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me say this before Doc don't. That's a very good point. But see, that's you. But when we look at, remember how the Doc was just talking about the narrative and the image, right? Why is it every time, especially on a higher level, like basketball players, football players, if we go and look at any couple that they publicize more than anything, Saquon Barkley, his wife, because he's white. Patrick Mahomes, him and his wife, because he's white. Think about how often you've seen Jalen Hurts and his significant other, or Russell Wilson and Sierra outside of the future situation being publicized in a positive light of black love. You don't see that shit.
You don't see
it. Hey man, check it out though.
They make it seem to you like you take the white woman, you're going to be better off in life if you accept the white woman versus
you lying to me, because we ain't never seen that work out good.
Right, but
and brother, see, my thing is this, man. If I can't come sit at your table and come around your people, and as soon as I walk out, I'm nigga this and I'm nigga that, I don't want to be around you, because them people had you. You know what I'm saying? You come from their lineage. Ain't nothing cute about that to me.
Yeah,
that's us, bro. I'm always going to be on guard. You understand? Right. The same way I'm on guard when I walk out of the house and I see them blue and red lights, and I'm looking. I'm gonna always be on guard. I'm supposed to have peace in my home. I can't even send my children. If I got a mixed baby, I can't even send my children over there alone around y'all because I ain't gonna never be comfortable. I'm always be on edge, man. I don't know what them folk doing over there.
Correct.
And man, we see all the images of the horror and the things that those people have inflicted on our people. Man, how many times we need to get hit in the head, man, to stop hitting each other, man, and start hitting back to the people that's causing the trauma? Why we can't get to the root of it, Doc?
You gotta, it's like, and I'm almost stumbling because I keep going back to this.
Right.
Have to really, we really gonna have to control the narrative again. Some of the things too, I think when we really start controlling institutions in our immediate community, like education.
Yes.
One of the things wherein you see what Trump is doing, with social media, with controlling dissent, because they know the power of the narrative. And we really have not controlled the education. We don't control the dissemination of the images that are put out of us. We don't. We don't on a spiritual level, and this gonna step on. A lot of us still see white Jesus as the be all.
Right. Yep. So do.
We do. And the basic thing, it don't take rocket science. Facts. If the image, like all the elders say this, if the image of the Creator don't look like you, if it look like your oppressor, you gonna literally see your oppressor as God.
Right.
That's
the real image.
I love horror movies. I do, because horror movies really telling the truth about what's happening. And so one of my favorite horror writers is Stephen King. Because Stephen King be putting out some deep stuff. Yeah, so I don't know if you remember The Stand, the movie The Stand.
Right.
Well, the movie The Stand, it's some kind of disease had hit the planet. 99% of humans were killed. It was 1% left. Half of the 1% was on the side of evil. Half of the 1% was on the side of good. The side of good, the messenger on the side of good was an old black woman. Y'all remember that? Listen to where I'm going now. An old black woman who was over 100 years old. Then on the side of evil, it was a dude who was an apostolate of Satan. So at the end, I read the book because at the end of the book, when Flag, that was his name, the apostolate of Satan, he gets exiled to an island. He's floating over the ocean, and it's literally a picture. Stephen King has drawn a picture, and he's floating over the ocean, and it's these black people on the island. And Flag is like, these primitive black people, I'll have them believing that I'm God, and they'll worship me. So he floating over the water. The black people on the island see him, and they start worshiping him. That's what has happened to us. I remember Frances Cress Welsing, when she was alive, she told me a story about a client, a white male client she had, who kept having this reoccurring dream that he was in South Carolina sitting on a throne, and black people in South Carolina were worshiping him. Guess who he was married to? A Korean American woman, a non-white woman. So Frances, she kind of psychologically confronted him on. He said, yeah, I keep having this dream where I'm in South Carolina on a throne and black people worshiping me. He had fought in the Korean War. And so he married a Korean woman. And she said, aren't you married to a non-white woman? He said, yeah. And he said something. He said, oh my God, my wife always used to talk about how Korean women would not marry Korean men because the Korean men had lost the war against America, white men. And so the Korean women started seeing Korean men as inferior.
Oh.
And so in his unconscious, he literally realized he married someone who would worship him. Listen to what I'm saying. The system of white supremacy requires that black people worship white people. I know that I've talked to too many white people.
That's it. That white ain't never worked for me. That's it. That white ain't never worked.
Look at Donald Trump's behavior. Donald Trump literally moved through the world like he God. I could do whatever I want to. Right. And I am going to do it. As far as black folk, we still got white Jesus. And so we like, well, the divine look like them, so they must be God. I keep telling people, I don't have problems with black people being Christian. I don't. My thing is, whatever religion you are, please make sure that your supreme being look like you. So if you are a Christian, you just have black Jesus. You know that show Good Times. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
A whole episode where Michael, he brought in a picture of black Jesus. The mother had a fit.
Yeah, Esther had a fit.
She had a fit. That episode was so deep to me. I was just like, wow, you married to a black man and literally you worshiping this white man. How you think this black man and your two black sons gonna feel looking at? That's why we in the shape we in.
See, that's why I feel. Remember, it was like a couple of weeks ago we was talking. I said, hell no, ain't no way I wanted my kids to think that a white fat ass man was coming down the chimney giving gifts when I'm breaking my back to work for him. And I'm Santa Claus in this motherfucker.
All day long, Jack. You know.
It's funny you say that because I remember one Christmas I got in trouble because my family used to call me like Michael Evans from Good Times. It was like, my mama said, she said it was real strange. She said, I knew something spiritual was happening with you. She said, because you was a happy baby. She said, you were the happiest baby until bath time. And so she said, I would put you in the tub, and then you would just pitch a fit. And so she was like, my child gonna be nasty. My grandmother said, you don't know your baby. And so my mother was like, what are you talking about? She was like, your baby don't like white. You bathing him with ivory soap. He don't like that. You got to go get dial. So my grandmother said, watch this. So she went and got the ivory. I pitched the fit. She went and got the dial. And so my mom said, my child going to be racist. My child going to be racist.
Man, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, at the time, dial was it orange at that time? Was it orange or was it the blue?
Yeah.
Dial was orange at that time.
Orange.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Old school. Yeah.
And so, it's really interesting because on a spiritual tip, like we literally like have this worship, this infatuation with white. And it's spiritual. Like it's not nothing. This is simple to me. None is going to change with us until we control the images of the divine, of all religion. Like I'm an Orisha worshiper. I'm initiated Yemoja. In Brazil, they will have a white Brazilian woman and they depict Yemoja as a white woman. And I say I will never bow before that. I will not, because I know how powerful that is, those images are. And so people move through the world like that. And white people literally think they have a God. I'm telling you, they have a God complex. They do,
and they be wrong as hell too. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing that irritate Doc. That irritate the shit out of me, Doc. White folks, most of the time, what they talking about, they ain't that intelligent. You understand? And this whole God complex that they have, when you check them on them being wrong, they be they be all taken aback and shit. You know what I'm saying? Come on, it's like you supposed to let it go. I'll just let it go. Look the other way, like we Jesus.
Right. Let me hit you with this real quick, and it's more on the realm of responsibility. And what is it for us to always be the scapegoat? So we already know the Charlie Kirk situation took place. But what was real surprising to me was before a shooter had even been identified, we already knew there on the situation it was a white older man they took in custody. He was wrong. Why is it that following that, after that, HBCUs are being threatened and attacked? We got hangings, and then we find out it's a 22-year-old white Tyler Robinson out of Utah. But still, we got white men marching, talking about white men fight back and attacking black communities and black victims and shit.
White on white crime.
that happened in California. And so, it's interesting because I heard Native Land podcast with Andrew Gillum and Tiffany Cross and Angela Rye. And Angela Rye had interviewed Michael Harriot, who wrote the book. I always get it wrong, like Black AF History. I think it was on the bestsellers list. And he said, one of the things we have to look at with white people is white on white violence. Like I keep telling people that, like Amos Wilson did a whole book called Black on Black Violence in Service of White Supremacy Domination. So to your original point, like how come we kill each other? Because we've been programmed to kill each other. That's why we kill each other.
But why they blame us for when they kill each other?
And so we have to be their devil. We have to be the literal scapegoat. Because I remember when that stuff came out, when Charlie Kirk got killed, I knew that
was a white boy.
I was like, it's Utah. I was like,
the long shot.
Ain't no black. If a black person there, all of them eyes gonna be on that black person. No one's gonna be
exactly what you doing here.
I was there like that ain't. And so, any reason to kill us, it doesn't need to be. You don't need to know the facts if you just want to kill black people. So, Michael Harris, we need to start calling it what it is. Like, that's white gang violence. Because I remember
it is
when they literally was like, white men fight back. That was in California. That wasn't Southern white boys. Those were California white boys talking about white. And I'm chuckling. I was like, who y'all gonna fight each other? Cause that's exactly what I said. And so, white on white violence is literally white gang violence. I mean, I'm gonna tell you something that's crazy. I had a colleague. So in psychology, we attend these conferences, and one of my colleagues was at a meeting of white psychologists somewhere in Middle Georgia, and they got into an argument. I'm gonna tell you two stories. They got into an argument, and they were about to come to blows. These PhDs, and I'm gonna tell y'all, PhDs are gangster. People keep thinking you little nerds or whatever. I tell people straight up, the biggest thugs on the planet got letters behind their name. Because they the ones that acting. People thinking like, oh, it's the little brothers on the corner. It's the military. No, the biggest thugs are people with PhD, MD. They gangster, straight gangster. So these white people, they are arguing to the point. They about to come to blows. So my colleague, a black woman, she was talking to one of the white men after the meeting. He was still mad. She was like, I've never seen white people argue like this before. He looked at her and said, don't you know, if it went against the law, white people would kill each other.
Yeah.
And
that's what they do.
I'm going to tell you.
They turn and walk 5 paces and bop and shoot. That's what they do.
When I was in grad school, I was teaching at Georgia, at the University of Georgia. And I remember we were having a conversation about power in class. So all the people who don't have power, they were talking about it. So the black people, the Latinos, the Asian Americans, the women, it was a group of people that were not talking about power. The white males. So I called them on. I said, everybody else talking about power except the white males. And so this one dude, he was about 6'4". He used to ask me to come go on like hunting trips with him. I said, I'm not going on no hunting trips. I said, I saw the movie Surviving the Game.
I remember trying to Dick Cheney you.
So I said, you don't do that. So I said, you thought that was cute. I'm not. No, we wouldn't do that. I was like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, I called him on it. He stood up. So one of his best friends was a Georgia football player who went first round in the NFL. I'm not going to call his name. He went first round. They were best friends. He stood up. He said, the reason why white males, we not talking about power, because when you got it, you don't have to talk about it.
You don't boast about it.
He was like, it's like the sun rising in the morning. You don't hear it, but everybody knows it's there.
Everybody knows there.
I was like, whoa. Like, so he basically said white men are like the sun. Y'all gonna know we here. Like little white boys, I think I got a theory. They find out life is real good for them at age 3. They pick up like, oh, we can do whatever we want to do at age 3. And so he stood up, he said, you know, the reason why, and so the other white men in the class, they start turning red because he telling the secrets, which you're not supposed to do.
Got you.
Right.
So they turn, and he was like, they can get mad at me all they want. I'm 6'4", ain't none of them gonna try to touch me. That's what he said. So the white king has spoken. So I started chuckling. I said, oh, the king done spoke. And then he said, he looked at his best friend who was black, the football player. He said, such and such. He said, I love you like a brother. He was like, white, we not gonna share power. He said, I'm not gonna, he had tears in his eyes. This white man did. He had tears. The black dude going off, how dare you say this? I was like, dude, listen, he is your best friend because he done told you something. No white.
Right, he done dropped a gem.
I was like, and you see him crying. He was like, I love you like a brother. But he said, we have killed too many of you all, too many of Native Americans, too many Asians. He said, hell, we done killed too many of our own to get where we are. Why would you think we gonna share power with you? Sharing power with you is like sharing our wives. That you don't do.
Well, they do that now. I don't know. They do that.
They ain't sharing the top notch ones. They ain't sharing the top notch.
But you know, it's real funny though, because all the black folks and the Asians and they going crazy. I was like, y'all done missed the point. He your best friend because he done told you the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
They not gonna share power. They are not going. I mean, look at it. Hear what I'm saying. It's real interesting. I expected after Charlie Kirk got killed, of course, the Republicans. What was really interesting, all the Democrats. Like I saw, like they passed a unanimous bill of day in the Senate, unanimous, which means all the Democrats voted for it.
Right.
I said, this real interesting. Ta-Nehisi Coates got into an argument with Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein, the liberal, was like, well, you know, saying very, you know, glowing things about Charlie Kirk. And Ta-Nehisi Coates had to call him out on that. He was like, wait a minute now. So you see, they line up. They line up. It has nothing to do with political affiliation. None.
Oh, shit.
It is about them staying in power. That's what it boils down to. I'm going to go to my grave 200 years from now, because you have to speak stuff into existence.
Right.
And I'm still going to maintain at 200 and what am I, 57, that it's about power. Once we understand that, then we get it. It's about power. People don't share no power with you. And so we thinking, oh, it's just about money's important, but power is more important than money. Because if you got power, you can get money. Trust.
Right.
Donald Trump went from being bankrupt, literally in the red, now he a billionaire because he stepped into the seat of power. And so he could finagle and be corrupt. That's where we are. Like, that is literally where we are as a society.
Let me ask this, Doc, then. And we talk about power. You know, we always hear folks talk about economic power of black folks. You know, we know that we've got the biological power, you know, because our bodies are resilient, you know, to go through the worst of foods, the worst of waters, you know, the worst of healthcare and still thrive and produce. What is it that's holding black folks from understanding that's the power that you want, the same thing that you bound to the white man about? And it's not a hate thing, but it's like the Asians figured it out. The Indian community, in fact, figured it out. So many other communities figured it out, but the Black American isn't figuring it out for some reason. We want power amongst those that look like us, amongst the little people, but then when it comes to go sit at the grown folk table, we want to inch our way to the grown folk table and tell them it's okay down here at the little kid table. What is it, Doc? I don't get it, because. And see, I'm like this, Doc, because I felt like an outlier my whole life because I don't worship them people. I respect them for what they are, but man, I've been an outlier with that my whole life, and I don't get it. These people do you bad, kick your ass, kick your mama in the ass, your kids in the ass, everything else. You use their tactics against your own people, but you won't use their tactics against them, to make it an even battle.
Archie Lord say the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. So I think one of the things is, and that always resonated with me when she said that the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
Right.
And I'm gonna say this.
He gave them to you.
Yeah, my woman up front, and so but if my next wife, if I do that, is gonna be Solange. And because I like Solange. I mean, I like.
You picked the right one. Shout out to the Beehive. Shout out to the Beehive.
I like Beyonce, but I like Solange. I think. I'm always. Then when I saw her little statue, her little altar, the Yamo John, I was just like, oh, that's the reason why. Because her sister talked about our Chewn, but anyway, on one of Solange's albums, their mama Tina is on there. Right. Tina has an interlude where she talk about, I always just love black people. Like, black people to me was just like fascinating. I couldn't understand why people don't like black people. She said, it ain't about hating white people, but I'm just gonna love black people. Yeah. And I say that to say because it goes back, it goes back to that culture. So, I remember Amos Wilson, when he would talk, he wrote a whole book. I used to have my grad students read it, called he used to call it Black Power, Black Economic. It was 800 pages, but trust me, that 800 pages was worth every read. It's like that. The grad students be like, oh, I don't even want. Then the black people would read. They was like, oh my God. My thing is, we have the answers to all the problems we face if we just know where to go find them. Amos Wilson said, as far as black power, he was a psychologist, not an economist. He was just like, look, it's all psychological. I tell my students like this, I love Biggie. I love Biggie Smalls. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but why? Biggie could rap. Biggie could rap like none other. Biggie was smooth. Like, I was just like, I like them smooth, elegant brothers with like Nas, Biggie. And so one more chance, Biggie said something real deep. That's the reason why we in the problems we in now. That one line, it goes, heartthrob, never. Black and ugly as ever. But I stay Gucci down to the sun. And literally, Amos Wilson used to say, if you teach people to hate themselves, they gonna spend money with other people. I'm listening to Native Land podcast yesterday. What's the famous designer? What was his name? Sergio Hudson. Y'all heard of him?
Okay.
Sergio Hudson, because it's New York Fashion Week, and even he admitted at one point in time that he had an issue with what he called white adjacency. Like, he was like, if he was not at certain tables with white people as a designer, that he felt like something was wrong. And he said it's something we have, and I think that I was appreciative that he said that, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, if I'm at the table with white people, then I have made it.
Yeah.
I think that, and so I was appreciative that he said that. So I say that to say, when you talk about spending power, so in black power, I teach a class called Intro to Multicultural Psychology.
Okay.
But I believe everybody on this planet is deserving, needs a seat at the table. But I'm unapologetic. Like, I'm gonna take care of my table at all times.
Right. Yeah.
My name is Ray. I'm always going to go for black. That's
hey, Dad. He told, I remember first day of class, hey, Baba told him, hey, you might not like some things I'm going to say in here, and I'm going to tell you right now, you go out there and complain all you want. I got my tenure. Hey, let me tell you, like, you can either stay here or you can get up and leave, bro. When I tell you, I seen a dwindling of white students.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Stand on it, dog. That's what
I was like, oh yeah.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about, man.
You know, because one of the things we get when it comes to economic power is like, so I remember Dr. Amos Wilson would say, like, with the Koreans, like in their economic power, like they didn't have the Multicultural Grocers Association. It was called the Korean Grocers Association. They were letting the world know.
Specifics.
You might buy from us, but our organization about how we trade is the Korean. You know what I'm saying? You go to like San Francisco, they got Little China.
Yeah.
Everybody know. You walk in, the white folks know, like, well, why y'all don't have white people in Little China?
Because it's Little China.
It's Little China.
Y'all go back to white America.
It used to be times where we as black people, African, we had in our towns, we had Little Africa. Like, I mean, literally, you knew when you walk in. All of a sudden, I guess we done fell into that multicultural trap. But nothing's wrong with having Little Africa. The white folks, the Africans and the white folks can come in, they can buy and all that. And if they say, well, why don't y'all have white representatives? It's called Little Africa. It says Little Africa. We gonna welcome you in here, but it's Little Africa. Right. And I think we need to stop apologizing for being black.
We need to stop it.
We need to.
Because when you go into these white people places, they not apologetic at all about not catering to you. They don't care nothing about not catering to you.
They ain't gonna worry about that power. They ain't trying to get that shit.
No.
And so that brings me to the next point that I want to talk about Little Africa, about us recognizing what we should be doing. What is your perspective on Dr. Umar, Ifatunde Umar, and the school situation? Because it seems as if, like, when I see the situation, right, when I see that he's trying to do a school, I'm thinking, like, that's some legit shit. A lot of people and a lot of our people see it and they automatically say this shit is a scam. How hard is it to do because it would seem to me that shit's hard. It's hard. To me, it would seem like trying to get a school independently, privately, accredited, only black, to do all this. To me, it seems like that shit would be a tall task. Whereas other people, even people in our community, like, oh man, you should have been done with that shit by now. You should have already had this. You should have already had that. LeBron did this, but we've explained that. So what is it about? What's your perspective on him trying to do the school? Because I think it would be dope. And what's your perspective on our community general reaction to him trying to build a school?
I think one of the things is we can't do anything by ourselves. One of the things, and I just will offer just like, constructive feedback. But even if I had to talk to the brother, like you can't do it by yourself, Right. And then I think one of the things is you got to realize that if you're gonna take the money from the community, and you know how black folks are. We gonna give you money. We need to see results.
See the results.
So that's it real. And so a part of that is the black folks gave him $250,000. They like, okay, where the school, And you got to really be very much humble, and then also very much diplomatic when it comes to us, because we giving you money and you can't pop off and say things like that. So I think it was those conversations that happened. They needed a certain amount of grace, and also a certain amount of you got to be very much humble when you come to the people, because and so I say, on one hand, what I'm saying, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. Some of that criticism,
I can tell you trying to dance around a little bit.
It was deserved. I feel like it was deserved. If I ever met the brother, I would tell him, I think you got to really talk with the black community. You can't talk at us. Because let's be real. Let's be real. And I'm not saying this to be, I got a whole PhD. I know I cannot walk up and some brothers telling them, I'm going to do this. They going to be like, excuse my motherfucker, what you think you doing? And I think if you got that kind of humility, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I'm going to go back to this. Like, I'm going to go to this. So part of my research is, you know how they say, like, black kids who do well in school, people get called them like they acted white, like if black kids.
Right.
I challenge that.
I hate
and
that.
I was telling some of my colleagues, I was not, no. Because I said, I grew up in Decatur, and there was some dudes in our high school, they was dealing drugs. I remember in the 8th grade, I was in study hall. Yeah. I'm a little dude, and like, there's some 12th graders in there, some 10th graders, 11th graders, they dealing drugs. So a brown paper bag come across, and they said, keep passing that brown paper bag. So me, I was like dumb as far as streets, and I was like, what is in that bag? And they were like, don't ask no questions, you keep passing it. So I was like, it's drugs in the bag. They dealing drugs in the school. I'm doing I'm that nerd. The only reason why they didn't mess with me too bad because I was athletic, but I was that nerd. So anyway, I remember some of them was like, they would be like, no, you go to school. And so I was like, y'all the drug dealers. They was like, no, you go to school. So some of my friends that were in the advanced placement class, they were acting like they were better than the other black people. So the research shows that, and I'm not blaming the black children, but when you alienate yourself from your people, then that's when they start saying you acting white. If you smart and you remember who you are, then they like, go on ahead, go to college.
Right. There's a protection of that.
Like that kind of loyalty. Because then if folk be like, you know, like, okay, yeah, they stuck up, they don't even want to deal with us. But then they like, all right, they done got, it's like they done got these resources. Because I always tell black people, use whatever you have as a gift to advance yourself. That's ethical. Like if you got stunning looks, go to Hollywood. If you good looking, you do that. If you got athletic ability, you do that. If you got brains, you use that. Whatever gifts the Creator has given you, like use it to your benefit. And I think that black people know that, like inherently, like, yeah, some of us just brilliant, especially here in Atlanta. Especially here in Atlanta. It's some brilliant black people. And I think the beautiful thing about Atlanta got its problems, but the beautiful thing about Atlanta, you still see black folk who got ability, they gonna look out for black people. And I think, like Atlanta to me at this point in time in American history is one of the safe havens given what we got.
Yes.
Because I just be like, I'm just gonna stay right here in Atlanta.
Borough in.
Cause you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's it, you know, but going back to Amos Wilson about the problem about the economics, it's all psychological. It all goes, like how we spending our money is all psychological and spiritual. I'm telling you, once we start getting that stuff in line, and I'm gonna say this, it's gonna take some generations. It's gonna take some, it ain't gonna happen. Even if I live to be 300 years old, it might, even if it take 300 years, that's going to be fast. I think it could happen if we were like really intentional. I think it could happen in the next 150 years. If we that intentional. I'm a realist. It ain't finna happen in most of our lifetimes.
Me and Dan talked about that. Like we're trying to do something to set in motion for future generations.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to do that because I mean, but I'm always hopeful because y'all said it. I'm telling you, like they talk about this in psychological meetings. Like I remember one time I was in a conference and I was sitting in the back because I want to hear what they saying. Somebody, these white people were asking a question, well, how are black people still here?
What?
So they was the premise was everything has been thrown at them and they still here. So I stood up. I said, y'all don't listen to Erykah Badu. But, y'all can throw everything at us. Y'all not going to destroy us. Because we the closest thing to the Creator on this planet.
Facts.
Like that, I heard the famous Sherilyn Ifill. She's a famous lawyer. And so she was on Native Land podcast too. They getting a lot of hype. Okay. And rightfully so, because they have some good people in it. Sherilyn was talking about all this stuff that's happening in the Trump administration. But at the end of it, she was like, I remain hopeful. This is a lawyer, a famous lawyer. She teaches at NYU. She said, I remain hopeful because they don't understand the spiritual power we have. Like, they don't understand. I'm telling you as a fact, they don't understand it. I'm going to tell y'all something. It's going to blow your mind. I've only told some of my closest friends this. So there was this white Oya priest. I never say his name right. His name was Ochanini Lili. He wrote this famous book in Orisha studies called D Logun. It's a big red book. So in the Cuban tradition, it comes out of Cuban tradition. So he would get on social media, and he I'm gonna be honest, he's an ancestor now, but he would just be mouthing off, telling secrets. And I'm just like, bro. Like, I remember one time he said, because he couldn't, in the Cuban lineage, they don't allow you to initiate to E5, you gay. So he was gay. He was openly gay. So he had said, so the board that we divide on is called the Upon E5. He said, if I had that Upon E5, I would be the master of the universe. And in my head, I was like, that's why you don't have the Upon E5, because you thinking like a colonizer. And so you don't need the Upon E5. But anyway, he had posted before Trump got elected the first time. He made a post on Facebook. I will never forget it. He said that some very powerful people in United States institutions have paid some witches and wizards, that's what he said, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do spiritual work to open up dark portals so Donald Trump can become president. As God is my witness, that's what he said.
He talked about that, right?
And so I was like, I said, well, he's gonna go there. So I said, how do you know? He said, because I was one of the ones they asked. Because I'm like, how he know how that it's happened? So it was really strange because, like, after he posted that, he said he was going to go into the hospital, have shoulder surgery, but then all of a sudden he had a brain tumor and he was dead. And so the word on the spiritual streets was, they cursed him. But I say that to say I was talking to one of my colleagues who's a lawyer the other day before I got on my bike to cycle early in the morning. We were talking at 6:30, and she said she had talked to one of her friends who is a professor at an HBCU in Florida. And he said, there's something spiritual happening. Like, there's some darkness that is in it. She said, that's the same thing Eric has said. He made an interesting analysis I had not paid attention to. Charlie Kirk's birthday is October the 14th. Charlie Kirk, he said negative things about George Floyd.
Yes, he did.
He said George Floyd had drugs in his system and died from excited delirium, which is a very racist term. There is a whole book I'm reading on excited delirium, on the history of how that term was developed by coroners. And it was one dude. He didn't even have a PhD. He wasn't even a medical doctor. He had studied African traditional religions. And then he was like, in Florida, when they would kill the practitioners, the black and brown practitioners of African traditional religion, he would say they were on cocaine, they had a heart attack, they died of excited delirium. That's the same thing. George Floyd's birthday is October the 14th.
That's crazy.
When I heard that, I said, and I'm not being, I watch horror movies. You had one dude on one side, in Christianity you got Jesus,
you got devil,
and so I was like, that's wild. Had that even, and then I looked it up. Their birthdays are the same day, October the 14th.
That's wild.
You tell me this stuff is not spiritual, and I'm very pragmatic because
the bro got clipped before he was trying to pawn mass shootings off on the black community. right when he was about to do that. That's crazy.
And so they gonna blame us for everything. That's why soon as that stuff happened, I was like 3, 2, 1, bam. There's something we gotta go kill black people. Any excuse to kill us. And they don't, and like everybody with sense knew. It's not a black person. Ain't no black people finna be in Utah. We not going there.
No.
So I was like, but any excuse to kill us. That is it. You know, and you know, back during you know, when the towns, like you had Rosewood, you had Tulsa. Like I tell my students about like the Gap Band.
Right.
And so a lot of people don't know, like Gap is the Gap Band. Gap comes from Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. Because the Gap Band is from Tulsa. Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, those were the streets that black folks were making money. It was black millionaires.
Yes.
So I'm just like, you know, they said, well, black people rely on government. All they want to get is government handout. We ain't got that history because we just want to be left alone. Leave us alone. We'll be fine. So when black folks was left alone, and I'm going to say this, then that proved how like resilient and how innovative we are. Cause the world, I heard on what was it, the Breakfast Club, they did some group did a survey on the most influential cultures in America. I don't know if y'all heard about it. So I know Mexican culture was ranked like in the top 5. Okay. But do you know which culture was ranked number 1 as influencing? And I knew it. African American culture.
Off top.
I mean, this nation wouldn't even have a culture if it weren't for us. So leave us alone. So in Tulsa, folk making money on Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. The white folks, they didn't like it.
They didn't like it.
Like, how in the world? Because it was oil country. They figured like, we supposed to just have all the money. They ain't supposed to have like I say something, and I said it in front of my white colleagues. I was like, white people really don't care if black people doing well as long as white people doing better than us.
Better than them.
Mm-hmm. And so I said it in front of the other the faculty in psychology, and it was collective silence. The black people were chuckling. I was like, and these are white liberals. I was like, y'all don't mind us doing well as long as y'all doing better than us. And that's the reason why Trump and all them doing it, because they mad. Because they were like, these black people, they coming up. We got to put them back in their place. Like
one might be at risk.
Yeah, you know them farmers that's losing money? One of the farmers said, we thought that if you deported all of the immigrants, undocumented people, y'all was going to have the black people working.
Really?
Like, my black butt ain't finna be out in nobody's farm unless it's my own farm. And so in Tulsa, like all it took for them was a little shoe shine boy. They call him, I think, Diamond Dick. He didn't even have a diamond. He was shine shoes. He got on the elevator with a white girl. That's all it took.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all it took. Then, she get off yelling, and then you know the story. Yep. You know the story. He tried to he tried to rape me. All the government and the U.S. government was in on it too. They just wanted that land.
They just wanted to take that time.
They wanted that land. True. And so that is it. We need that. And that's why Trump is trying to take the history out the museums. Because I maintain this, if you know who you are, like the book, The Art of War, I'm paraphrasing, The Art of War. If you don't know your enemy, you don't know yourself, you ain't finna win no battle.
You ain't finna shit.
If you know your enemy and don't know yourself, you might win maybe 39% of your battles. If you know yourself and don't know your enemies, you gonna win more battles. But if you know yourself and your enemy, and that's what we get. So like I used to ask students, why don't teach you about black history? They was like, and they knew it. They was like, cousin, we knew who he was. And so I'll never forget. Like this British aristocrat, he said after London got bombed, after World War II, the British, this was an aristocrat, which means he ain't made no money. He born into power.
Right.
He said the British people made a contract so the aristocrats made a contract with the British people saying we were going to have universal education and universal health care after World War II. And he said, we said universal education because he said an educated populace is a rebellious populace. And so if you know who you are, nobody can enslave you. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm big on education. And not just education where you can get a job. I mean, but education where you know who you are. Because once you know who you are, they can take all your money, but you know how to fight back. So
they can't sway your mind.
Mm-hmm. That literally, because y'all probably had grandmothers like mine. I had a great aunt named Big Mama, and everybody got a Big Mama. Big Mama was the matriarch, and so. You talk about that stuff with skin complexion. So I remember one time, my Big Mama was real light skinned because she was the product of that stuff.
Right. That's
and so I remember I was over her house because I was a messy child. I said, why you, Uncle Alfonso was real dark skinned. I said, why you turn that real dark skin? She said, I didn't want no ambiguity about the racial identity of my children. She said, because the black kids called me half and half N-word wannabe. Yeah. The white people called me the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I married the blackest man I could find, so it was no mistake. And so she always used to say, get as much education as you can get, because they can't take it away from you.
That's right.
And she said, why you getting that education? Because some black people get that education and they get stupid.
Right.
Because that's true. I'm going to tell you something. The research shows, the more education some of us get, the dumber we get.
So do folks think they've been accepted, think they one of them.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Because I be listening to some of my colleagues, I ain't going to call no names. I be like, come on.
Dumb as hell.
Talking about they ain't black no more. They one of them. Think they've been accepted.
She always used to say, get the education, but know who you are. And so that's the type, because one of the things is, as an educator, I'm going to say this, we ain't got no real power, because how we sending our children to be educated by our enemies?
Ain't it?
Yes. I'm look, that's why I tell people, start running for school boards and stuff like that. Because if Trump and all them want to say we want to return education back to the states, okay. So we can sit on the school boards, since you said it, and we can control the education our children get. Since you trying to take all the stuff out of music, so don't say nothing to us when our children reading this. Look at crisis produce opportunity. So they want to say return education back to the state. I'm like, okay, run for school board, control what our children receive in the schools, and start teaching them. It used to be a time where black churches, they used to have Saturday school.
Yeah.
So did.
Yep.
I say, I be telling the Orisha people, I was like, y'all be acting all elitist when it comes to black Christian. I say the black Christians is, at least they had enough sense to have Saturday school for black kids to learn history. I was like, the Orisha people, we ain't doing that, and we supposed to be so pro-African, so we gonna have to do that again. Have Saturday school. One of the things too, because they swear up and down black people don't read. Black women be reading. They got all them book clubs.
Right, ain't it?
So if they, we do that. We start, me, because one of the things, I'm just going to say it, as a black man, as I get older, I'm always trying to figure out, how to make sure black men are taken care of. Right. I'm concerned about the sisters, but, and I'm not saying the sisters going to take care of the sisters, but I think the sisters had that, but I was just men need that same thing, because they did this one study about how men so lonely, and I was just on one hand, and I like sports and everything, because that's how we. But I was like, we need to exchange information, because information is power.
Right.
And so don't have them hang-ups, because I'm just like, why you not going to share that knowledge with your brother if you know it? Because if you know it, it's like, say, for instance, with all the stuff with economics and things like, because I'm one of them ones, I ain't going to lie. My dad used to get on me about this. I would check my 401k plan every month, because I'm always trying to figure out an exit strategy just in case. And so he would be like, stop checking your 401k plan, because anytime it would go down, I would get nervous. And so I have like black financial advisors, like literally. And I think those things are important. We need to start, one of the things, we need to start studying geopolitics too. We really do. Like, start thinking about who we are as a people, not only here, but who we are as a global people. We're going to have to really start having those discussions. Because, like, the white boys, Trump, Elon, they done made connections in Europe with the Nazis.
Right.
Everybody know it.
Right.
Elon Musk over in there talking to Germany, telling the Germans, stop apologizing for what you did. Everybody know what he's talking about. And so they got their little international game, because that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Right. It's a game. That's games. And then we can have our international conglomerate. I ain't gonna call it no game.
Right, we're gonna call it something else. Right.
Because I think we need to stop being so humble about trying to get power for our people.
That's the damn truth.
We trying to get individual power. And I'm like, what does that mean? Predominantly black women. But I'm seeing more and more brothers on the campus. I said, this good. This good. Because I'm always thinking about how I can produce some more intellectual warriors. Because, like, as males, one of the things, when people talk about gang violence, I'm always like, the reason why the young brothers gravitate to the jokers in the community that's doing the underground stuff, because those are the males with the power. So that's the way we think. So if you start taking care of them, they ain't got to run to them. And then don't even isolate the brothers that's doing the illegal stuff, because I'm going to tell you, half them jokers are not bad people.
They not, man. They useful.
Exactly. So because and we will shoot back. Akiyele said during the civil rights struggle, because some of us black people, we ain't finna boycott nothing, because we done got comfortable. So it used to be a time, he said in Mississippi, when people would break the boycott, the little thug brothers, so the black businessmen who, respectable, like PhDs,
right.
They would go to the little thug brothers and say, I heard such and such broke the boycott. I'm not telling you to do anything, but I think you should know that they broke the boycott. So the little thug brothers would go and catch them in secret, and they would do what they had to do.
Have a conversation with them.
Have to straighten people out.
So straight.
One of the things is interesting, because that word thug. So in what's Homeboy's book? He died a few years ago. Greg Tate. Greg Tate did a book on hip hop called Everything But the Burden, about like the history of hip hop. White people have this infatuation with hip hop, but they don't want to be black, because they love our culture. They love it. They just they love it, but they don't want to be black. And there was a chapter in there on the origin of the word thug. And so I was like, so the word thug, I forgot who wrote that chapter, because it wasn't Greg, but the origin of the word thug is from India. And so among the Indian power structure, they had a group of underground leaders who, they were underground, they were gangster, but they were organized. They were called the thugs. If people in power got out of line, then the thugs, their job in the society was to literally go and kill people who were in the most powerful positions that forgot their obligations to the people.
Damn. Boom.
You see what I'm saying?
Boom.
That's
checks and balances.
Words.
Checks and balances. Because see, we don't have that. If we had that, if we had a group of people,
and we got them, they're available. They're available.
And I'm saying this because everybody, we live in Sissa. I'm not saying for anybody to go out and kill nobody.
Right.
No.
You have to say that. But I'm just talking intellectually. Like if you that organized, it's a checks and balance. It literally is. Because no one should have absolute power.
No.
No one. Because people ask why black folk act because black folks don't have, and I challenge this a little bit. We got power. We really do. We don't know how to use it. We got power.
Target.
No. Exactly. We got it. We just want to act and we got the Supreme Court that's supposed to be. They done went along with everything old dude is doing. So you see the institutions getting in line around a dictator. That's what, and so we got to figure out as a people. And I'm always like, I'm gonna tell y'all this, and this might shock you, because I was telling some folk that I said we don't need all black people.
Right.
All
That's
we
right.
need is a critical mass of at least 15% of black people, because that's how stuff happens. If you got a dedicated critical mass of at least 15% of the people who got all kind of intention and they can move stuff. They can literally shift it. They can shift it. Because everybody be like, we got to get all black people on board. That's going to be, first of all, it's because some of us.
Some of you motherfuckers ain't meant to do this shit.
Right.
Because some people going to be infiltrated. You just need a small force. And make a move. You know what I'm saying? We need quality. We don't need abundant numbers.
No, hell no. You leave them bonnets and then the bonnets and them other folk.
Right.
Them skinny jeans, you leave them with that.
Because some of us, like you got, and I think one of the things is like, people talk about Amanda Seales. They say all kind of negative stuff. Amanda Seales, to me, she got plenty of sense. First of all, she gonna go. Did y'all see? She went on what was that, Jubilee, and she argued. I mean, she beat down 20 black conservatives. It was quite embarrassing. I mean, she mopped the floor with them. I was like, you have watch that video. Go on like YouTube.
The Jubilee.
It's called Jubilee. So they have like people who come and it's one person.
One person sit at the table and there's a circle of other people, right?
And so Amanda Seales debated 20 conservatives and made them look like fools. Me, I don't have time for it. Because if you up here finna apologize for this, see, she did it because she was like, I love black people. That's right. So she was like, I'm gonna argue with them because I love them. Me, I ain't got that bandwidth. Because I'm like, if you thinking like that, then I don't want nothing to do with you. That's
right.
It may not be the best thing. Because I only have a finite amount of emotional investment and time. So I'm not saying that those people are unreachable, but for me, that's not my job.
That's right.
It's not. And so I'm not. And another thing, too, I wish we would stop doing. I'm going to say this. I would, like, one of the things, like I said earlier, I think, Brother Umar, there is some accountability. But I think if we see people trying to do stuff, don't let white folks make us argue against each other.
Right. That's right.
Like that. Like, if we got beef, we need, because white people, they do that. They will say, what do you think about such and such? And then
create confusion.
And then a whole war done popped off.
For sure.
And they just sit back in the cut, laugh.
And watch it.
And they watch. I'm like, even if I disagree with a black person, if I know that black person really has the well-being of black people in their heart, I'm not going to argue with them in public.
Right.
I might be behind closed doors.
Right. There you go.
That's how you do it. You don't keep doing...
Keep family business out the street.
You don't do that. Exactly. This is war. So why would I sit there knowing in my heart, like, yeah, you really do love black people. I don't agree with your tactics, but I'm not going to argue with you in public because they do that. Like, and so we got to make that kind of commitment that we have an unspoken code of things you don't do.
That's right.
With other black people who are fighting for black people. It has to be an unspoken code.
You know what? That's strong, though. If we can, and man, just thinking, Doc, if we can commit that 15% of critical mass that move on that code, we straight, Doc.
Yeah.
You said it. I mean, 15% that whole straight.
Because think about it. Think about it with King and Malcolm. Because people love to romanticize. Oh, I was with King. I was out. You had the black ministers. They used to tell King, "You a troublemaker."
Yep.
They told him that. They went after people dead. Oh, I was with them. No, they weren't.
Right.
King suffered from depression ever since he was a teenager. Like he made 2 suicide attempts because he was depressed, and so that was hard work. Black people were saying stuff about him, white people, and then they hated Malcolm. Like they hated him.
Sure.
They hated him.
Cause he was hella unapologetic and I ain't trying to fuck with you.
In all facts.
Even the Nation of Islam would say stuff like you had members of the Nation of Islam, Malcolm is worthy of death. I mean, that had to hurt him. It's bad. It don't bother me when white people say stuff about me. It really don't.
Right, but your brother?
But when black people say stuff about me, like, that's painful. And I'm not even comparing myself to Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X, but for them, I'm sure it had to hurt. It had to really hurt for their own people to be like, oh, they just a bunch of troublemakers. And you got that today. You have people who sit back and literally, and none of us, my daddy used to say, don't put no man or woman on a pedestal.
That's right.
We're all human. And I think psychologically, people put people on pedestals so they don't have to do the work.
Oh,
they don't, because because people don't mess up, because we human. Soon as somebody because they will spread. Think about all you talk about the trauma. Think about how all the negative things they would say about King. Well, King, he had a whole bunch of women. He was cheating on them.
Yeah, so did.
And it was true. But my question is, does that take away from what he did?
The movement.
It don't. It don't.
Why not? Then after Malcolm died, then Manny Marable came out with his book and was talking about how Malcolm was probably a closeted bisexual. And I'm just like, even if, and it was really interesting because when Michelle Martin interviewed I think it was Malcolm's oldest daughter, and she told Michelle Martin, do not ask me any questions about Manny Marable's book about his, saying my father was bisexual.
Right.
What did Michelle Martin do? Say, well, she told you, don't ask me no questions about that.
Right.
So when people start saying, Malcolm was probably bisexual, I was like, if he was,
what the fuck do it matter?
That don't negate the message.
That don't negate the movement.
And my thing about it, if you hung up on a man's sexuality, especially if you're a man, I'm gonna start asking the question.
What's up with you? What's up with you, man? How you know all this shit to look for? You know what I'm saying?
Men don't get caught up in who men sleep with.
No.
Hey, if I ain't with it, bro, don't fuck with it. But what we got on the agenda? You feel
right? What's going on right now?
Exactly.
Shit, man.
Our enemies know us, and they know which buttons to push. They know we are very. How is it put? We politically, we are fiscally, we fiscally liberal when we vote, but then we are socially conservative. Like black people are very conservative. So our enemies know. Go at them about folks cheating on their wives.
Very secure about our image and our masculinity. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the men start questioning their masculinity because black people think they gay. And so there you go. It's interesting. Like I always tell people, white folks, around that issue around sexuality, it was real interesting because white folks don't care who leading, long as it's one of them.
You ain't lied about that shit. My God.
Because you think about what's happening now. Because one of my friends was like, wait a minute, Peter Thiel, because Peter Thiel is funding J.D. Vance. That's who funds J.D. Peter Thiel is gay.
There you go.
And so people like, wait a minute. They scratching their head like, wait a minute.
You taking that gay money?
Right.
Man? And I was like, yo, they white.
They don't care about that.
Don't care about
nothing.
That.
That's why they don't. Right.
The truth be told about the Republicans, everybody know it. Everybody. When they have their conventions, what is it called? Grindr? That's the gay app. It be blowing up. Blowing up. That mother going
up.
I heard that, I chuckle. Because I was like, these are the very people that be passing all kind of legislation. And them jokers, as they say on the street, most of them jokers gay.
Be out there boy touching. That's what they do.
That's what
that's their culture.
That's their culture.
You see it in their culture.
It's from back in the Roman days. Shit, that's
it's in their culture.
And they passing all kind of legislation. And so somebody said, but Peter Thiel and somebody else who one of them old Nazis is also gay. So I was like, no, they don't work that stuff out. They just want somebody white up in there. And so that's all they care about. And one of the things is, especially when you talk about masculinity, a lot of white men feel threatened. Their whole sense of who they are as far as men is based on a lie.
True.
Man, you see that every day too. When you look them in their damn eye, eye to eye, man, you feel their spirit or whatever little spirit they got just crumbling. They turn into a little boy. You know what I'm saying? You ain't done nothing but squirrel their hand and look them in the eye. You know what I'm saying? You see it just melt. Man, they perpetrating the fraud.
Robert, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get with you. I'm going to bring you a mic. We're going to get you set up. All right, I'm going to bring you that because we really appreciate you. So as far as I'm concerned, we're going to try to make sure you got everything. So when this message come out and it come across, we want everything crystal clear for them to hear. And we just want to take care of you and show you that we appreciate you.
Yes,
always.
Yeah, definitely.
Just being not even considered just the care that you have shown in bringing us the knowledge and just letting us sit down and talk with you for other people to see and hopefully get that message. I truly do love you for it, brother. So
that's right. That's right.
Here, so we always got our thing. We saying, Dan, go ahead and tell these people what we got to say on the exit, my brother.
Good people. Hey, thank you again, too, Doctor. Thank you for dropping that knowledge. But good people, eat the fat, chew the meat, and leave the bones. We out.
We out of here.
Later.